A warm welcome to all. My name is Cilexy Joseph. I am MSW student in Rajagiri College of Social Sciences, Kalamashedi. Here I am going to give an overview on Japanese encephalitis. Japanese encephalitis is a virus which is originated from an ancestral virus in the area of Malay of archipelago. The first clinical case was reported in 1871 at Japan. In the presentation, I will be discussing on what is Japanese encephalitis, what is the cause of the disease, then diagnosis, treatment, transmission, prevention, and conclusion. So, what is Japanese encephalitis? Japanese encephalitis is a zoonotic disease and caused by mosquito-borne Japanese encephalitis virus. And the virus is from the family Flaviviridae. So, the Japanese encephalitis is a vector-borne viral disease and which can affect both man and animals. It is caused by flavivirus and transmitted by the vector mosquitoes which is belonging to the Cilexy species, and these diseases can be affected by most all the ages of the population, but mainly it tends to be a childhood disease in the endemic areas where most people develop immunity by the time they reach adulthood. So, what causes Japanese encephalitis? Japanese encephalitis is caused by a flavivirus which can affect both man and animals. The virus is passed from animals to humans through the bite of infected mosquitoes. The pigs and wandering birds are the main carriers of the Japanese encephalitis virus. The mosquito become infected after sucking the blood from an infected animal or bird. These mosquitoes carry Japanese encephalitis. They usually breed in the rural areas where they are flooded rice fields or marshes. But most the mosquitoes have also been founded in urban areas. They usually feed between sunset and sunrise. And the main thing is that Japanese encephalitis cannot be passed from person to person or human to human. Next is how Japanese encephalitis is diagnosed. A laboratory test is required in order to confirm the Japanese encephalitis virus. Some of the tests are complement fixation test, neutralization test, immunofluorescence assay. So the first one is the complement fixation test. It is to detect the antibodies for infection. Then neutralization test, it is to detect the presence of the virus infections, and immunofluorescence assay, it is to detect the antigen and the antibodies, and the confirmatory test is only available at the centers for disease control and prevention. So what is the treatment for Japanese encephalitis? Actually, there is no specific treatment for Japanese encephalitis. Only support and care is needed. Next is who has an increased risk of being exposed to this disease. So mostly the people at risk are those who live and work in rural areas such as on pig farms and in the rice fields, and also the children under the age of 50. Next is how common is Japanese encephalitis and where it is found. According to WHO, 24 countries in the WHO Southeast Asia and Western Pacific regions have endemic Japanese encephalitis virus transmission, and it is mostly common in temperate and tropical regions of Asia and in subtropical and tropical areas. And it may be depend on the rainfall and the patterns of the birds migration. But in some areas of the tropical region, the transmission might occur at any time of the year, which can be depending on the agriculture practices. The Japanese encephalitis affected areas in India are Andhra Pradesh, Assam, Bihar, Haryana, Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Manipur, Nagaland, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, and West Bengal. Next is how is Japanese encephalitis transmitted? It is transmitted to humans through the bite of an infected mosquitoes, primarily the Cilexy species. And the virus is maintained in a cycle between mosquitoes and vertebrate host, mainly the pigs and wandering birds. Humans are vulnerable to disease and they are dead end host because they usually do not develop higher concentration of Japanese encephalitis virus in their bloodstream to infect the feeding mosquitoes. There are three different stages of Japanese encephalitis in humans. The first stage is prodromal stage, then second one is acute encephalitic stage, and the third is late stage. So first one is prodromal stage. The onset of illness is usually acute and the duration of this stage is usually 1 to 6 days. In this stage, the person will have fever, headache, nausea, vomiting, and lethargy. Next stage is acute encephalitic stage. So this stage begins by 3 to 5th day and the person will have high grade fever, natural rigidity, unconsciousness, dystonia and dysphasia. The next stage is late stage. This stage begins when active inflammation is reduced and the control nervous system involvement is more in this stage. Mental impairment, epilepsy and behavior abnormalities can occur in this stage. The average period between the onset of illness and death is about 9 days only. So, what can be done to reduce the risk of acquiring Japanese encephalitis? First one is the vaccination. Vaccines are available to prevent this disease. There are four main types of vaccines. First one is inactivated mouse brain derived vaccines, then inactivated virus cell derived vaccines, live attenuated vaccines and live recombinant vaccines. Next, we can avoid the disease or prevent the disease by taking some personal protective measures. It can be by avoiding going to the areas with water accumulation and wear light colored long sleeved clothing and trousers and apply mosquito repellents and place of accommodation should have mosquito nets and ensure that there is no blockage in the drains. By following these measures, we can prevent the disease. Next is National Program on Japanese Encephalitis. National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program was launched in 2003-2004 by merging National Anti-Malaria Control Program, National Filaria Control Program, and Kala Asa Control Program, Japanese Encephalitis and Dengue. Among these, the program for Japanese encephalitis is Japanese Encephalitis Control Program. Its main objectives are strengthening early diagnosis, development of a safe and standard indigenous vaccine, vector control measures. So, Japanese encephalitis is a zoonotic disease and caused by arbovirus and transmitted through the Culex mosquito. There is no specific treatment for this disease and only through prevention we can control the disease. Through immunization, we can control the disease and the important thing is to provide awareness among people regarding the cause and root of the Japanese encephalitis transmission. Thank you for being active listener for my presentation. Thank you.